Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the on-track series video for the American Tier 10 heavy tank, the T110E5. If you haven't seen the on-track series before, it's basically where we'll show off a game in each of the tanks all the way up to the Tier 10. So for this line you've got the T1 Heavy, the M6, the T29, the T32, the M103 and the T110E5. And we'll show off some Ace Tanker gameplay for it, say what sort of crew we'll have, the equipment setup, etc, etc, and just give you a general feel for the line. Now obviously this tank isn't on track at the minute, but one day it might be. And you know, if you have a feeling of what you want, well, whether you want to grind this line, you can just come back to this video, see what the grind looks like, see what the tanks look like when they're fully upgraded and going at their best, and you can decide whether you want to go for it or not. And you know, you can see a basis for how you might want to set these tanks up. So this is the first tank in the line. It's the T1 Heavy, and it's got two guns, because it's got the main gun, which is a 75mm gun, if I'm not correct, or not wrong. I think it's a 75 or a 76mm gun. It also has the multi-weapon system, which means that you can hold A, and you can switch to the secondary gun in the turret, which, for the T1 Heavy, is not that useful because it fires nearly the same pace as your standard gun, and the penetration on that gun is pretty poor. But if you were to go against a target that has no armor, and you could quite easily sort of spam and keep holding the button, you can wreck them pretty quickly because, well, it's just like a machine gun essentially. So in terms of a crew, what do I run on the T1 Heavy? Well, I run the same crew that I run on this tank on all the way up the line. So I run the Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Trap Mechanic, Steady Aim, Snapshot, Run and Gun, Off-Road Driving. Now, Off-Road Driving to make sure that this heavy tank can hit its top speed, and then all the gun perks to, well, it's a heavy tank, so you want to make the gun as good as possible. In terms of equipment, I run rammer, vents, and optics. Get the best out of the view range possible, best out of the DPM, best out of everything really, and then rammer, because yeah, that's the way that I want it. That's the way I like to do it anyway. So yeah, you've just seen in this bit of replay the mad spam you can try and do with that extra gun on this tank. And if you get tanks that are weak enough, like I say, you can do some serious damage pretty damn quickly and rack up the kills. It's pretty nice. Now, you have 128 pen on the standard AP and 177 pen on the premium rounds, which means with 128 pen, we were never going to go through the AT2, so we need the premium rounds. It's the same as this OI experimentally. He has actually 125mm of frontal armor, which means with the standard rounds, we are just over a 50-50 to penetrate it. So you load the premium, you can go through that guy pretty easily, which is the same as pretty much all the Japanese heavies, which is kind of sad for them that it is that way, but it is what it is. And so far we're up to 1600 damage with 145 assistance. We've blocked a decent amount as well, which is pretty nice. I will say, when you are bottom tier, as with all heavy tanks when they're bottom tier, never expect it to bounce, because it won't. Simple fact, it will not bounce those shots. Is what it is. Now the T1 Heavy is a pretty solid starter to the line. It's got pretty decent DPM. The mobility is pretty decent. The armor's so-so. I really enjoyed the T1 Heavy when I ground through it. Now, that is a good point, really, is there is actually two ways to go up to the E5. There's the T1 Heavy and the M6, or you could avoid that and go through the M4 Sherman and the Jumbo Sherman, and therefore you get to the T29. But because this is the heavy tank, this is the one I'm going to show off. And this is the route we're going to show off, because it is the heavy tank branch. Just thought, in the middle of that, yeah, you've got two choices. Now, the Jumbo Sherman is a lot of fun, but it's not a heavy tank, so we'll go with these two tanks. And the T1 Heavy and the M6 are pretty solid tanks. And with the addition of the multi-weapon system for them, they're pretty nice. Like I say, if you find anything that is weakly armoured, you can just decimate it very, very quickly. Now, it's more of a pain on this tank because of how fast your standard gun reloads, as opposed to your main gun. As you just saw, though, with that Panzer III-4, when you got the backside of someone in their fairly weak armoured tank, we came against that guy, bang, hold A, straight in, fire again, fire again, fire again. It's like a machine gun. You can decimate them very, very quickly. Now, like I say, it's nicer on the M6, because the M6 has a pretty quick reload. or no, sorry, a pretty quick reload from the 90mm, but it's slow enough that you can have the time to use the other gun. So we get against the Stug 3B there, and we fortunately got that first shot that we snapped in, and then we managed to shut that guy down. We've got quite a few kills so far. Now there's just the TD in the middle and artillery. And I'm looking at it going, just please, I want more kills. It's what I want. We're up to 2.4k damage and 145 assistance. The artillery gets struck down by our Stug 33B. And it's just the TD. And there it is. It's another Stug 33B. Got the big-ass derp gun on it for the tier. It's like, what, 150 mil or something like that? And we're coming against this guy. It's like, please, I want to kill. So we get one in, switch to the weapon system, try and snap the shell in with the weapon system, but don't quite get the kill, which is really unfortunate. But it is what it is. We finished with the victory, and then we actually got 8 kills in that game, 2.5k damage, 145 assistance, 510 blocks, Devastator, Ace Tanker, Radley Walters, High Caliber, Top Gun, 1881 base XP. A really nice game for the T1 Heavy. 8 kills, Radley Walters, always great to get. T1 Heavy is very solid. Like I say, I always enjoyed it because the mobility was okay-ish. The gun handling was decent. The DPM was pretty good. I don't know, it's one of those things I sort of clicked with it quite well. And the multi-weapon system is definitely nice for when you're going against those lower tier tanks that have no armour. Especially good against light tanks, where you can just sort of keep spamming it. But you're better on stuff like the Panzer 4A or whatever it was that we saw in that last game, where we got up to its rear, we were pretty damn close. It's not going to move anywhere too quickly, and you can just keep spamming the A button, holding it down, and just hold the trigger down. Essentially, that's what you want to do with the multi-weapon system. Hold the trigger down, and then just keep switching between the two weapon systems consistently when you're against those sort of really weakly armoured tanks, because you will just destroy them so quickly. There's not much that they can do to react to it, but the thing is, because you don't have much pen on the multi-weapon system gun, I believe it's like 70 pen, something like that. It's not great. Decent for, like I say, shooting at the lower tiers, but once you get into tier 6, 7, not as good. You just got to know what you're shooting at. So those poor lower tiers are going to get wrecked, but when you're facing the higher tiers, yeah, it's not going to go as well. So, we're on to the second replay, and the second replay is in the M6. The M6 is a tank that I've always loved. 90mm gun's great, the DPM's great. Now you've got this multi-weapon system which can be useful against the less armoured tanks. The mobility's okay, the armour's not great, but it is what it is. The M6 actually received some buffs fairly recently. Actually, I think it might have been in the Blitzkrieg one, but it got a better upper hull armour, which went from 82mm to 140mm near enough. And on the turret, the 3-inch gun, which is the gun before this, got significant buff as well. 3.3 seconds. Your gun mantlet on the turret has also gone to 140mm, sorry. So the armour on this tank actually got buffed. And that was pretty damn nice, because now you actually have the ability to occasionally bounce stuff. If you go on a ridgeline, get hull down, use the full width of the gun depression, and you're going against a lot of tier 6 tanks, they might actually struggle to pen you now, which is something that they might not have done before, because you were pretty much just a T1 heavy but a tier higher with a bigger gun, right? Now, like I say, you have the opportunity to bounce things, which is okay. You've got like 160 odd pen on the AP rounds, which is solid for facing tier 6s. When you get to facing tier 8s, it's not as great. But you've got a 240 something pen on the premium rounds, on the APCR, which is great. It's absolutely solid. It means that when you're in a bottom tier matchup like you're seeing in front of us right now, when we are horrendously bottom tier, it's really useful because we can load premium and we can go after stuff like this icebreaker. Like the icebreaker, we can't pen with the standard rounds. He gives us that drive wheel with AP. We just probably track it, don't do any damage. But with the APCR, we actually have a chance, which is nice. So we get in, we shut down the VK7501K, which is the icebreaker. It's just the unskinned version. We're going for the tracking shot. We end up breaking this guy's engine and keeping him in place, and we're up to 1800 damage. We switch back to the standard rounds because we don't need it for this MT. We try and use the multi-weapon system while we're reloading the standard rounds. It's like, okay, let's just keep spamming the shots in, but I should have switched back to the AP straight away to get the finishing kill on that guy. I probably just wanted to try out the multi-weapon system there and see what we could spam out at him. Like I say, should have used the standard gun, because obviously you have the indicator of where the multi-gun system is now, there's an indicator. When it's reloading, you can see it, well, when it's fully reloaded, it's like it is now, but you can actually see the reloading indicator going up as it's reloading, and then, you know, when it's fully loaded. In terms of the multi-gun system, like I say, because the pen is so low, never takes standard rounds. Also, it's a faff, right? So just load full gold and use it sparingly, essentially, because the standard round pen is just not good enough. Whereas the premium round pen, you know, you can use it. And again, like I say, it saves you faffing with the ammo loadout, essentially. So we got a nice shot into the rear of that M48 round panzer as he's running along. But now we're coming against what we know is a charioteer that's somewhere around this corner. And I'm just hoping to get there first, because I can take a hit or two from this charioteer. And I basically want to blitz him with both these guns, because I can just about pen him with the multi-weapon system. So here's the charioteer. He's actually stock, which is pretty good for us, which means he's going to take a couple of shots to kill us. So we're just going to keep spamming the multi-weapon system at him. Like I say, just holding the trigger down and then switching back when we're reloaded. So he doesn't manage to kill us, but we managed to kill him. We lost most of our health, but it was quite satisfying to use that weapon system there to get so much of his health out. Now there's just one tank left. It's this WZ-121 GFT. We get a nice shot straight into his lower plate, and hopefully we get to finish it off, which we do. So yeah, the M6 is a wonderful tank, and because of the penetration on the standard and premium rounds, you're never really going to fail to pen anything you're ever going to meet, which is great. In a game like that, we had to fire a lot of premium to make the best of it, but we finished with 4 kills, 3.1k damage, ace tanker, Confederate, 2k base XP. A really great game for the M6 in a bottom tier matchup. That was as bad as it was going to get. And like I say, with the M6 penetration, if you use it as like that, I always think of it, play it like a tiger. That's my best way of thinking about playing the M6. Play like a tiger. Play to shoot, but not get hit. So you play the peekaboo. So basically, you pop around a corner, shoot, but be pulling back before you fired, essentially. You know, make sure you get your shot off, but at the same time, don't sit around to take the hit, because you're just going to lose hit points. Use the good, well, pretty decent mobility of the tank. Get yourself into flanking positions, and then work them over with your pretty solid DPM. Because that is the strength of the M6, is that a gun. That 90mm gun is absolutely fabulous, and if you can keep it working, constantly keep firing over and over and over, you're going to work over and get so much damage. And it is a really solid tank for that. So, now we're on to the next tank, and we're on the T29. The good old reliable T29, the tank that's not actually changed really at all since they brought it in. Pretty much. And that's because the tank is utterly fantastic, to be fair. I mean, I've not really played it much since I ground through it. And I mean, this was my first ever Tier 7 tank. I played it a lot back then, and then obviously not really played it too much since because of grinding everything else. But it is absolutely solid. It's such a great tank. That's why it's never really had to receive many changes. This 105mm gun is brilliant. The upper hull armor and the lower plate armor is okay. It's not fabulous, but at the same time, it's because the turret armor on this tank is utterly, insanely fantastic. And it's just an absolutely solid tank. So, we are playing on Great Wall. We've loaded some HE for these light tanks. We've penned both of them. Absolutely satisfying when you pen these wheelie boys with it. We managed to shut down one EBR Hotchkiss, and hopefully we'll get the reload in to shut down this AMD 178B, but it's not quite looking likely that he's run away. Yeah, the T29 is utterly fabulous. Like I say, the key strength of this tank and the thing that you want to be doing in it is exactly what we're doing now, right? Get hull down, absolutely laugh at them. Because you've got 198 standard pen, 245 premium pen. Again, it's pretty much enough to pen everything you're ever going to face, and you can just absolutely decimate everything. This is one of those tanks that doesn't really care about being bottom tier, doesn't care about whatever the matchmaking is, because the strength of the tank is get hull down and laugh, and it's very, very good at it. The mobility of the tank's meh, but like I say, just get the strength of the tank, get hull down, and absolutely laugh at everyone and have fun. Now, this tank does have a secondary gun, or should I say, I don't know how it works in the linear progression system now, but it does have a 90mm gun, and arguably the 90mm gun is actually better than this gun. It's probably not arguably, to be honest. The one thing it doesn't have the 90mm gun, compared to this, is penetration, really. That's it. DPM on that gun is utterly insane. It's slightly more accurate. You absolutely trash with it. And a lot of people that will 3-mark the T29 won't run this 105. They will run the 90mm because the damage potential of that gun is insane. And it's the same gun that you have on the M6. You just wreck face with it. So, like I say, most people, when they say, oh yeah, 3-mark T29, you ask them what they did it with. Most will say, I ran the 90mm. The only problem with that, obviously, is that if you are running the 90mm, you're probably going to have to fire a lot more prep, whereas this is the more user-friendly. I don't know. I prefer the bigger alpha. That's always been me, so that's why I run it. But, yeah. T29 is just... It's a solid fan favourite, right? Everyone loves the T29. Everyone that's ever played it loved it. And it's just a great tank. So far, we're up to 2.1k damage, 238 assistance. We're going after the guys that are in our cap. There's a hammer here. We're going to try and fire through the wall. Fortunately enough, the shell slams straight into this hammer, which resets the cap. Our AMD is trying to get shots into him. There's the P43 Tur that has just come out at us. It's like, leave us alone, Mr. P43. I am looking at the hammer so far, but it's like, okay, I'll try and get a shot into that guy. Don't, unfortunately, pen the Italian medium. But now the hammer is my choice of target. It's like, Mr. Hammer, I'm getting you. I'm being aggressive right now because I have full health. So I have all the health in the world to deal with these guys. We shut down that hammer. And now we're going to put around this corner and see if we can get more shots. But they're actually all coming for us. So we get one into the P43. He's now technically a one-shot for us because we have 320 Alpha. You know, the RNG's got to favour us there. We get one into the Caro. Now the P43 is coming for us. So we have to focus down the gun. It's like, get the weapons out of the game. There goes one. Fortunately enough, it rolls high enough. The Leo is now YOLOing us, and like I say, get guns out the game. Doesn't matter how much HP they're on, they're always going to hurt. So we shut down the Caro, so that's another gun that's focusing us out of the game. Now the Leo is hugging us. It's like, stay away from me, Mr. Leo. We RBRT straight underneath, or straight past him, because we RBRT'd it. I'm really frustrated at that point with doing that, because I'm like, you stupid idiot, why did you do that? So we're going to aim, we're going to come round, and we're going to pop a shot into this Leo. I'm still extremely frustrated that I actually missed that shot because I could have basically saved myself most of the hit points that I had on that. We managed to shut down the Leo and we finish the game with a nice total. We're finishing the T29, the old favourite, victory. 8 kills, 4.3k damage, 2k blocks because it does block a lot. Bradley Walters, Devastator, the Ranger Medal for killing all the light tanks, Steel Wall, High Caliber, Top Gun, 2.2k base XP. A really nice game again for the T29. Fan favourite. Absolutely fantastic tank. It really is. Like I said, it's one of those tanks that doesn't care. It just doesn't care about being bottom tier. It's solid, guns solid, both guns are solid. It doesn't matter whether it's stock or upgraded. The mobility is okay for a heavy tank. It is a heavy tank, so you've got to expect it to be slower. Like I said, the gun performance is pretty solid. It's better now, obviously, with 6.0 and the fact that the gun is actually accurate. Yeah. Solid all-round tank. It's a great tank to play, the T29. It's one that everyone always goes back to. But now we're on to the Tier 8. We're on to the next tank in the line. We're on to the T32. And the T32 is another very, very solid installment in this heavy tank branch. This whole heavy tank branch is really, really solid. And it's a great learner branch, I think, to be honest. It's like the Russian heavies. Sort of just solid at something. You get used to it. You get good at it. You have a good time. T32, what's it good at? Well, the same as the T29. Hull down. Hull down. You want to get hull down, use this turret armor. Because this turret armor is utterly fabulous. It's just a really solid turret. It means that you're pretty much not going to get penned by anything when you go hull down. And then you try and work them over with the gun and everything, really. So, yeah, the T32, it got some buffs in, I believe it was the E5 reforged, not the... Was it the E5 reforged or the Blitzkrieg of changes? It might have been the Blitzkrieg of changes one. And it got some significant buffs. So its hull armor went from 127mm to 146, and its side armor went to a 76mm all down the side rather than different panels. Its stock turret got buffed to 203mm, which used to be one of the weaknesses of its grind. It's the fact that it was great when it was fully upgraded, but it just couldn't play the way it's supposed to when it was not fully upgraded. So that got some changes. And in turret 2, the roof armor got changed to 177mm, which means that they're never going to pen your cupola, and to be honest, they never did anyway, so that buff is, yeah, whatever. The 105mm gun got from 2.3 aim time to 2.1, and it got from 10 seconds to a 9.5 second reload, so a little bit of a DPM buff. The 90mm got another significant buff. This is another tank where the 90mm is absolutely solid. If you don't mind firing premium rounds, just spam the prem and you will have an insane reload and insane gun. So this game in the T32, we're on Kaunas. We've been very aggressive because they seem to be in... Well, we've just pushed through the town. There's not much there, and they've seemed to have pushed this 9-0 quite aggressively. So we've got ourselves into a good position here, and we're getting some big shots into the Tiger 2. Now, you've got 218 penetration on your AP rounds, with 265 pen on your APCR. Again, enough to pen everything you're ever going to face, which is wonderful. And it's got more pen now than it used to, because at some other point on one of the other reforges or balance changes, they gave this tank 218 penetration on its standard AP rounds, whereas it used to only have 198, same as the tier 7, sorry. So that 218 pen actually made a world of difference, and it made this gun really, really nice, and it made this tank just even better to play. And it is, again, it's another solid installment in this absolutely solid line, and it gives you some solid strengths to use. So now we get up behind this STRVK, we get a shot into him, but it's like, okay, again, get guns out the game, that's what you want to do. So we slam a shot into the Tiger 2, finish him off. Now the STRVK is actually turning to face us, and it's like, bro, leave me alone. Then we spot the T69, it's like, okay, we'll get a shot into the back of him. I really probably shouldn't have done that, because I've basically woken the beast. What I should have done is instantly just gone to kill this STRVK, and then turn my focus to the T69, because we basically woke that guy up and he realised we were here, and you know, that's what we shouldn't have done. But fortunately enough, he was reloading, which meant that he never went for us, and we finished the game with a nice total for the T32, and a very, very quick game for the T32. And we finished with 4 kills, 4.6k damage, 1100 blocked, ace tanker, the high caliber, 1932 base XP. A nice game for the T32 in a tier 9 game. Like I said, the T32 is fantastic. It's a little bit boring, I think, as a tank, because it is the strength of get hull down, just laugh. And then your reload's okay. It's not the best. Your gun handling's pretty solid. It's just solid. I don't know. To me, the T32 is just a little bit of a boring tank because of the fact that it is literally just get hull down, laugh at everyone, and that's pretty much the tank done and dusted in one little nutshell, right? It doesn't really have much else going for it. But it's not a bad tank. It's actually a very good tank. Like I say, on the whole, the C5 line is fantastic. And this is another tank that is better now. It's been buffed. And yeah, they buffed it quite a lot, and the buffs were great for it. So what did they buff? Well, they buffed the lower glacis to 152mm, which makes this lower glacis amazing. They buffed the turret cheeks on the stock turret. They buffed the top turret as well, which meant that the roof armor is now no longer overmatchable, which was a major problem for the tank. Like, I mean, massive, massive problem for the tank. So now it's got 50mm of roof armor, and the command attach is 152mm. This thing hull down is a lot better than it used to be. It used to be bloody awful when you were hull down, because people would just shoot the top of your turret and they'd overmatch it every time, pen you, and it'd be an absolute nightmare. And that is, like I say, great for this tank. They've also buffed the 120mm gun, the top gun, and they made it 10.4 second reload instead of 11.2, which is a great DPM buff for the tank. It's absolutely, it just makes this tank so much better. And now this tank it's gone from being that sort of mediocre tier 9 heavy tank to a solid performer, and you can have a lot of fun with it. I say, and now it can go hull down and laugh at everyone, because we're on Lakeville and we've gone to the valley. Now, this would have been a terrible time for this tank. Look at the tanks we're facing. We're facing the 705, the Tortoise, the 257. These guys would have seen this tank shot at the turret, hit the roof, and penned every time and just laughed, even though I'm hull down and I'm using the gun depression as much as I can. Now they can't, which is wonderful. They have to hit the cupola. They have to hit it, which is great, because beforehand they would have aimed for the cupola and just overmatched the roof anyway. And as you're seeing, so far we're up to 4.4k damage. We're just going to keep this gun working, because we've got a 7.8 second reload with the setup that we have. And we're running the same setup on this tank as we ran on the T29 and the T32 in terms of equipment. And that is rammer, vert stabs, and optics. Because, well, optics, I'm the kind that I hate being outspotted. So I'll make sure that I'm never going to be outspotted using optics. Then vert stabs to make the gun handling as good as possible. You are a heavy tank. It's what you want to do. And then also rammer, because making your DPM as good as possible is always great. And with that, we've got a 7.8 second reload. And we are putting these guys to task. We're up to 6k damage so far. We've bounced nearly 4k. Like I say, we would have lost a lot of hit points in this valley with the old school T32 M103 because of the turret and the fact that its turret would have been overmatched every time. And it's just made it so much nicer to play. So we've realised here that the thing that's actually holding everyone up is this T28 prototype. So you know what, I'm going to push aggressively, try and get shots into him. We've only got heat left, which means that we actually didn't pen this guy because we hit his gun mantlet. Then I'm like, well, 340 heat pen, I should just put this guy's turret up. No, apparently not. He has actually been buffed recently, that T28 prototype, which makes that tank really solid with its turret armour. Solid enough to bounce 340 heat? I don't know how I bounced that, but I did. But now we're just going to go aggressively. We're going to basically force the push. So we go in on the 705, shut him down, hide ourselves from the guys on our right using this little hill, and we get the shot in to shut down the Tortoise. We're up to 6.7k damage. We're coming around the corner on the T29, and we rush the shot. Yep, we tried to rush the shot to try and make sure that we got the shot in before our team got there to kill him, but unfortunately we ended up just hitting the dirt because we rushed it and we missed. Shame, but it is what it is. We're up to 6.8k damage with 5k blocked. Like I say, the M103 now is just a great solid tier 9 heavy. The lower plate buff is something that you can't discount because it bounces a hell of a lot more off its upper plate and lower plate now. And the turret armour is fabulous while it's hull down. And we finished that game with 4 kills, 6.7k damage, 5k blocked, ace tanker, Spartan, steel wall, high caliber, 1926 base XP. Great game for the M103. The M103 is now fantastic. If you haven't played it since it got buffed, it is well worth playing. And again, another solid installment to what is a fantastic line. Now we're at the pinnacle of the line. We're at the top of the line. The T110E5. The E5 used to be great. Then it got nerfed. And it was sort of, it's not that good anymore. But it's still okay-ish. And then it got buffed again. And it now is fantastic. So, you know, when they nerfed it before, it was because the turret armour, in fact, the commander's hatch that you can see on the top of the turret, was basically impenetrable except for premium rounds. And even with a lot of premium rounds, they still bounced a hell of a lot. Then they nerfed the hatch a lot. And it meant that it was easily penable with pretty much every tier 9 and 10 standard rounds, which really hurt the tank a lot. It really did. It meant that you couldn't really go hull down anymore. You just had a massive, easy-to-hit weak spot, and everyone pens it, which still happens a lot now, and it's probably one of the things that lets the tank down you've got to be wary of. And also, the one thing that hurt it as well is they nerfed the drive wheels. So the drive wheels ended up getting nerfed from, like, I think it was 152 millimeters of armor to, like, 74, 75, something like that. And that meant that a lot of the time you could be a little tiny bit angled, wiggling, and people would shoot your drive wheel and just pen it and track you, and it was very irritating. But they changed a lot of things when they buffed it again. So, what did they buff on the T110E5? Well, on the E5, they buffed the accuracy during movement and rotation, so they made the gun accuracy just better. They made the accuracy from 0.35 to 0.33, and the reload from 10 seconds to 8.8. So it ended up going to near enough Super Conqueror DPM, which is wonderful. And accuracy. to near enough Super Conqueror accuracy. So that combined with the pretty solid armour of the E5, it's not infallible, but solid, and now having a fantastic gun, and pretty solid mobility on the E5, it just made this tank fabulous, essentially. This DPM is a lot, and it feels great for the tank, and because this gun is so reliable now, it's a really nice tank to play. I've really enjoyed playing it again. I stopped enjoying it after they nerfed it, because I felt like, yeah, the cupola needed nerfing, and it was nice that they nerfed the cupola, but when they did stuff like the drive wheels and made it so that you just get easily penned even at stupid angles while tracked, it was really annoying and really irritating. But this DPM has given it another, a fresh breath of life, you know, and it's been a lot of fun to play through. In terms of the skin that I'm wearing, by the way, that is on this tank, the same as the one that was on the T32 that I forgot to mention. This is the Black Friday skin that they released for Black Friday. I really liked it. I liked just the black skin generally. It looks great for me personally, and it was just, I just had to have it. I just did. It had to happen, and yeah, it looks great on the E5. So far we're up to 3.7k damage, 4.1k damage, make that, and 1700 assistance. We're now attacking these guys that are in the middle. So we're going for a shot at the 705A because we were shooting down. I was hoping that I could pen this 705A with my AP round, but it didn't quite happen. Looking for the lower plate shot, but unfortunately we bounce, and it's like, right, okay, because this is a 705, I can't muck about here. I've got to get this 705A, so we load the heat. Ricochet off a stupid shot. I don't know why I did that. He's also firing heat, so he goes straight through our lower plate because we're at a weird angle. The artillery tried to get a shot at us, which as soon as he got spotted, it was like, artillery, please let me shoot you, but we couldn't quite get it in. We're just looking for shots at him. Now the IS-4's given a shot. Now the IS-4's been buffed. We couldn't actually penetrate that turret armor roof that he had there. So we unfortunately bounced, but now he's in a really good position for us to get the heat shells through his upper plate. And we're just trying to finish him off. But the 705A goes, "Get down, Mr. President," and saves him. But fortunately enough, the IS-4 pulls out and we get to shut him down. Now we're going for more shots into this 705A. I take the risk to go over and get the shot in. He ends up bouncing. We set him on fire, and it ends up finishing him off. We go back to the AP rounds. Fortunately, artillery misses us. That's very, very lucky. Yeah, we're down to 7-6, and it's not looking good for my team so far. We've got someone who just never connected to the battle in K2. We've got the heavy tanks and the TD below me. And yeah, we're not in the best of positions because they control the whole upper section of the map, 5, 6, 7, 8. We control this 1, 2, 3. Now, this 1, 2, 3 is powerful, but the thing is, you have to push it correctly to get the most out of it. So what I'm going to try and do is poke around our side of the hill, so I'm safe from artillery, and try and spot the thing that's on top of the lighthouse, or anything that might be trying to come round this hill. So we end up spotting this Super Conqueror. Now, he's actually fully hulled down. It's like, I can't compete with a hull down Super Conqueror. It's never going to happen. He'll fire Prem, probably go through my lower plate easily every time. Or, if I was hull down myself, he would just wreck my poor cupola. It's just the way it is. So I decide, you know what, disengage. We're not dealing with that target. Unfortunately, those in the lower ground have all died, which is really unfortunate. We get shot into the tracks of the 752 and don't pen, unfortunately. But this other 752 isn't paying attention to me, so we shut him down. And I'm looking at this. I've got to draw in this Andre. I've noticed that this heavy tank is coming up on the E line, which I assumed was the Super Conqueror because, well, there's only 2 heavy tanks left and we knew where the Super Conqueror is. There's Andre the Giant. I'm just thinking, please, Andre, the Super Conqueror's fired. Please go and, you know, shoot this Super Conqueror. Because if he shoots the Super Conqueror and I get a shot in, we could one-shot that guy. But unfortunately, he just doesn't get the shot in. And now we're left basically 2v5. We get a shot into the lower plate. The Super Conqueror, before he gets too close, we start getting shot at by the 752, so we're going to make sure that our armor's angled towards him. We try and get the turret ring of the Super Conqueror, but we can't quite pen the turret ring with AP, so we load heat, and we can get through the turret ring. That is, if the Super Conqueror is face-hooking you, load 300 Prem rounds, or over 300 Prem rounds, and you can pen that guy's turret ring really easily, which is exactly what we did. So we try and get a shot into the upper plate of the 752. Can't pen that. got one straight into the cupola, which is where we should have aimed in the first place, and the M103-55 manages to shut down that 752 before getting shut down himself by the Leo PTA. So now we know where the Leo PTA is towards our base. I've got myself saved from the artillery, and it's like, right, okay. We're on 7.6k damage, 3.7k assistance. We're over 10k combined, we're actually 11k combined. And I'm thinking, right, I'm going to get rid of this artillery. So we load the HE just as we're coming down. We end up spotting the artillery, which is really unfortunate timing. But we've got this HE in. We slap it in, one shot in, which is why we loaded the HE. And we go back to the standard round. Now, again, we know the Leo PTA was towards our base. So I'm hoping the light tank just doesn't appear behind me. But I'm going to start heading towards this middle area again, so I can try and sort of get a little bit more safe around this corner. And then, well, hopefully find the Leo PTA, because I'm expecting the Leo PTA to come that way. But unfortunately, the PTA ends up rushing up from behind us. We ricochet off him, he bounces off us. But I realise at this point, I'm absolutely screwed. There's no hope of me getting safe here. We get a shot into his side, and he pens us. We were just so caught out in the open there that we were an easy pen for him, and we unfortunately got shut down and lost the game. But we finished with 6 kills, 8.5k damage, 3.7k assistance, 5.2k blocked, ace tanker, high caliber, top gun, 1333 base XP on a loss. A really great game for the E5. It's an absolutely solid tank. It just needs a little bit of help every now and then from the team. It's a great line, the T110E5 line. It's well worth grinding. As always, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
A great success!